Wow, wow, wow. Okay, today is Monday night. You made it. You made it, okay? And this is the Erudition Network, and I am your host for the Adroit Living session on the Erudition Network, where I volunteer my time to help with mental health and talk about some things that can help improve mental health, okay? So we're going to talk about it today. Um, I don't know about you, but I just want to talk about just relax. I just want to I'm home today. I'm chilling. I'm relaxing. I finally got through Monday. I got through Sunday. Okay, the weekend was uh colorful, colorful. And last week, we, and then it's like a lot of times we don't really talk about it, but y'all ever notice how, like, in the media, when it's really getting heated, they start to do something that's like totally distracting. And it's like now we're talking about that instead of the real life stuff. So I know y'all noticed it. I know y'all had to have noticed it. Um, it was like we were talking about political perspectives and ideas and voting and things like that. And a lot of people were starting to say, hey, the person that I'm with, um, yeah, that person or the person I even like, they have really different opinions and perspective on things than I have. And that's one of those things that, ignite civil war. And it's like, I thought you were my friend. I thought I knew you, but yeah, I don't know you. I don't know you at all. So then everybody started saying, "Oh, I can't wait till this political nightmare is over, so we can get back to regular stupid." I saw that trending, and I was like, "OMG!" Hey, Eric, and I was like, so not only are we identifying that we have a broken system that we're perpetuating and we're living and, I guess loving, I don't know. But a lot of people, especially the majority, they're like, we're fed up and we're not going back. We need to get some things right now. And we're going to do it for mental health because now it's starting to affect things that we're just unrelenting on. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. It's like um, we saw what all these political talks did to Stacey Dash. Now we're seeing what it's doing to like Janet Jackson. It's like, why did you just stay neutral? Stay neutral. Say nothing if you're not going to side with um, perspectives that are more reasonably sound. For example, a lot of people like Cuban from what is it? That show Shark Tank. He did an interview and he was like, one of the things that made him um, improve his stance was that he tried to talk with Trump. I guess they were friends, and he was like, "Look, bro, you have to, research before you start talking about topics. That's all. Nobody ever expects anybody to be a genius. You can't be a genius and be like a know-it-all on every topic. You just, before you start talking about something, go get some reputable source information, then start talking about it." And it was like, he was like, Cuban was like, "Well, I can't get down with it because that's not, that's not cool." And then it was like that came after the political debate where Trump was like, "Oh, the what is it? What is that thing? The 2025?" He was like, when Kamala brought up, "Oh, you know about that 2025, and we're not trying to do that. That's just too drastic, and the economy won't survive that. People won't survive that." And he's like, "Oh, that 2025, that's not me. That's not my plan." And then so since then, everybody's been bringing up how often his name appears. Like the Congresswoman Jasmine is going viral. She started bringing up how many times Trump's name is actually like mentioned in the 2025 blueprint for presidential candidate for the Republican Party. And it was like, uh-oh, you just said a moment ago that that's not your plan. If that's not your plan, why is your name in there so many times? I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. Why is it that it seems to be trending that we have no accountability when we called on something? Just be grown, be an adult, own it. Now, I'm not saying you got to be flamboyant about stuff. I'm not saying that, but be an adult, own it. And if it goes wrong, you know, apologize and say it was a moment. It was a moment. It's grace. There's grace and mercy for things. For example, everybody started distracting us with this whole Diddy thing. And now all of these videos, apparently, I don't know if people consented to being video recorded at these parties that Diddy did. But now it's like everybody's talking about the Diddy thing. And I'm like, man, this is so wild. I don't understand why people just can't own their moments. Okay, if adulting, sometimes you want to do some things that, if it comes to light, it comes to light. But when it comes to light, you want to disown it. And it's like, really? Why would you be so dishonorable and to get caught doing something and then take it away? Like, don't do that. Hey, it is what it is, Eric. I don't know what they're gonna do about it, but it's interesting watching. I'm over the place. I simply want folks to vote and get. A lot of people are just really tired of the back and forth, and they wanted something like as interesting as the Diddy controversy that's going on right now. Because previously, I mean, if you go back and you think about it, or maybe I'm just a little older, we used to talk about things. He was a political. He was, and he had all this controversy with his game shows. Is it a game? Was it a game show? I don't know, but it was a show, and it was like really trending and popular, and everybody would always talk about it. And that was a big distraction from a lot of the political controversy that everybody was experiencing prior to Trump going into office. But it opened the door because everybody was talking about him and how controversial his shows were and being distracted with that show. And then Trump made the comment, I could run, and I'd run as a Republican, even though I'm a Democrat, because they so clueless. And it's like, it kind of worked, because I don't know if he just did the whole JD Vance flip flop, where JD, yeah, we're gonna talk about it just a little bit, where he was like totally against something until somebody offered it to him. Then he was like, yeah, it's all nasty. It's all nasty. And it's like, I don't know if it's designed to be that way so it'll retain people's attention, so it'll compel them to act, or if it's like, how everybody is like, oh, well, anything, even negative publicity is publicity. So it just keeps the ball rolling to distract from things we cannot change. I don't know if that's the perspective people are really taking on it, even though that's kind of like the excuse that people give about it, like to justify it. And it's like, are we really? Is that what's happening? I don't know. What you say? Yeah, we do have more important things going on. Like I would love to talk about the space race and us going and doing, things like that, and exploring the ocean and things like that. But it's like, we can't never talk about anything serious because everybody's waiting to get back to what it is. What was it? Normal stupid. Like, really? I was really hoping we would elevate our way of seeing things. We had a black man to death despite. Yep, that's true. And that is definitely a topic that people are not talking about enough. It's like you putting innocent lives to an end, And it's like, we should be talking about that. We should be trying to turn those types of situations around. Like, what if that would have happened to the Central Park Five boys? Because some people who we currently know are running for political office were gun ho for executing some innocent boys, um, when we are all well aware of the fall guy strategy to make the public, the general public, feel safe or safer, even if it's a false sense of security, because the situations do not improve, mainly because you got the wrong person and you're not looking for anyone else. But anyway, let's talk about it. You know, all of the time we're being distracted. We're being distracted. For example, a lot of these distractions are so telling. It's like, man, JD, how do you really feel? Like, before you accepted the offer to be more in the limelight, we thought you was cool. We thought, oh, you have biracial children. Oh, you have daughters. You're definitely for protecting women and for cross-cultural line crossing and shaking hands and being united, and having that united front and moving forward towards an advancement of the culture, of at least the country, um, where we can have a culture of unity, America, the United States of America, so that we could advance in technology, advance in exploration, advance in just making the air quality better, the water quality better. And it's like, the more we have these natural disasters, the more prevalent it becomes that these are some hot topics we cannot continue to not talk about, because we're falling prey to the undesirable outcomes of having to constantly deal with it. Meanwhile, we're being thoroughly entertained by nonsense. And it's like, nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about how we're being distracted with a bunch of madness. And meanwhile, we are losing people by the drones, despite the COVID pandemic being more dull than it was on its onset. And it's like, we're returning back to a place where it's like what we were doing before the pandemic. And it's like, I thought everybody was like, oh, well, you had 2019, then it was the whole pandemic, and then you have 2020. So now it's hindsight and we know how to get back on the right track. And we had 9/11 and everybody was, talking about improving from those things that really led us to dark places that we really didn't like and didn't want to be, perpetually stuck in those ruts. And it's like, we back here. We're back here. And not only are we back here, but we drug in the insurance companies, and they're now doing some really shady stuff. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Have you read your insurance policy lately? Whether it's your homeowners, renters insurance, car insurance, whatever insurance you're paying for, have you read it lately? That has been trending on the news. They're talking about how the policies have changed drastically. Before the pandemic, we saw some people setting fires in places where homes were built that were multi-million dollar homes, but they were built in areas where it was a great deal of probability for the homes to catch on fire due to forest fires and spontaneous fires and such. And the insurance companies were beginning to change their policies only to those areas, just like gentrifying homes and not permitting those homeowners to carry a proper policy that would sustain them should anything happen. So unless they move into a better area code. And then once they were all moved out, they changed the policy again. I'm just saying there's nothing new under the sun. But at the same time, there is a callback. There's a clapback. And that clapback is a great deal of people, the majority of the people are saying, no, we're not going back. We're not going back because we don't have the numbers. We just simply don't have the numbers. We don't have enough people to lose anymore. We don't have enough people to fall by the wayside and forget about anymore. It's like, yeah, you might have been entertained until you start looking around and seeing the ghosts of the people who have fallen and won't be back. And it's like, we can't afford to keep doing that. We can't afford to keep saying, oh, well, it was all fun and games. Now, you don't have no drinking water that's clean and healthy and won't make you sick. You can't afford groceries or health care. You can't really trust sending your kids to school. And even going to places of worship, you packing. Everybody's strapped now. Everybody has a weapon. And it's like, I can't really trust. And it's like, where did this come from? How do we get over this? How do we get over anything if we're not going to even accept accountability or say that it even exists? Or we're constantly trying to either point the finger and at people who didn't have the leadership control. For example, my favorite argument in this current political experience that we're living through is how every now and again you will hear someone say something like, oh, well, Kamala Harris isn't doing anything right now, and she's already in the presidential office. She's a vice president. If I was a president and my VP came at me and said, oh, this is what we doing, like, you better check yourself. You number two, I'm number one. Don't forget that. Don't ever forget that. So why is it that we act like we don't know that she's limited in her power? I'm just going to say that. Can you imagine what would have happened if Pence would have stepped to Trump, was like, and then that's the whole thing. When Trump was in office, Pence never said anything out of order to Trump. He never tried to correct him or anything. And it was just a matter of not going along with what he's saying that really put his life in jeopardy. And it was like, if he didn't tolerate it, what makes you think anybody else would tolerate a second place person trying to act like number one? So, yeah, I don't think that, we're going to act like, and keep on perpetuating that idea that a vice president can overrule a president. I don't care how naive you think a freaking president is, because everybody thought that Bush and Clinton and all of those people, at some point, everybody always says, oh, the president is naive and ignorant and all this. And yeah, meanwhile, no one, especially VP, Mr. or Mrs. number two, is not coming up and saying anything to number one. That just not happening. Let's talk about it. If you had at your job or in your household, the number two person start to step out of line and forget, hey, you getting a little too big for your britches. You starting to step out of line. Play your role. Watch your mouth. Fool around and find out. I'm just saying, because it has to. Let's talk about it. I'm just saying. It is. I have to say, I have to agree with the idea that if someone is so privileged that they can really write it down for you, and you still act like you don't know. Come on now. You whatever you had coming, you had it coming. What's that Chicago movie? It's called Chicago. It's a musical. That song, you had it come. He had it come. He had it come. I'm just saying. It's like it's a running theme in a lot of movies that depicted real life. Even music that depicts real life, or anything that's kind of mocking real life events. It's like, come on now, you had to have seen that coming like so far away that it was ridiculous that you acted surprised. And it was so elementary. It's not like it was over your head that this was happening. It's like it was written in such a fundamental way that it was like, how in the world are you acting like you so clueless that you didn't know? Then they throw in the dancing girls or the whatever dancing guys, and everybody's all excited about that and distracted, like we doing with Diddy. And it's like, I'm I'm so over the whole Diddy freak party, whatever, because we've already concluded that adulting and mutual consent is something that we accept, especially when we come to either one, understand God give us all free will, so really stop trying to control people, and then two, when we saw we named a whole community, a group of people who just living their life, we named them and gave them a whole community, a label as a community, to just, live flamboyantly and be free love. Free love, that was like in the 50s, 60s, was it? I don't know. But that's nothing new either. And it's like we keep acting like all of these past events are new because we're applying it to a new generation of people. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense at all. But it's trending on like social media, like TikTok. Oh, let's get back to regular stupid. I can't wait. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's like that whole woke and not woke thing came from, and Spike Lee really kind of like brought that to um more of the light. But it's always been there. It's just he applied it to a newer generation, a newer time. And then this current generation, or this current era, we started to act like the idea of woke had a whole new meaning, a whole new definition. Like, we don't understand what that really means. It's like, come on, man. Y'all doing the most. And it's right now to the point where people just are not mentally digesting that in a way where people can continue to survive situations, and it's sending out signals that's causing a reaction best left to the movies, if that helps. And it's like, how do we get back to a time and place where we can throw that kind of ideas and stuff out there and not have it to be a fatal recourse? How do we do that? We can't go back. We can't go back to those things that we know led here, to the point where you can't say anything without cancel culture, without it being a fatal end to it. You can't do it anymore. You just can't. People are fed up. The economy is fed up. People have lost loved ones, and nobody wants to do it anymore. They want to cherish the people who are here, who remain. Cherish the people who remain. And it's like, it's too random that you don't know if they'll return. It's far too random, and it's no longer exclusive to the African American community. It's everyone. It's everyone. That can happen to anyone. And that kind of unpredictable scenario being realized across the board has gotten us all not just Americans, but globally, internationally, we are at a point where we're like, we can't go back. We would fight until the bitter end and there's nothing but rubble left just not to go back. And we're seeing that overseas. We're seeing that in places where a lot of people who are innocent, newborns, women, children, men who have nothing to do with all of the drama, they're falling and they're not getting back up again. And it's because we can't go back to what people were doing before the pandemic. The pandemic woke a lot of people up, and it started a lot of people to say, hey, yeah, we need to do something different. Like, yeah, we made fun that the system is broken, but we were really expecting some improvements. And we are not seeing those improvements. And instead of us seeing those improvements, we have social media people using their platform to perpetuate continual or worsening ignorance. Like before, it was like, okay, you ignorant and you don't know it. Now you have this whole, let's get back to regular stupid. So you want to remain stupid to the facts that the person you are with, for example, some people are saying that JD Vance doesn't care about his wife and daughters because he's siding on the concept that women and children, women and young girls won't have the right over their bodies. And it's like, man, before all of this, we would have never known that that's the way you felt. And that kind of waking up to that kind of realization is like, yeah, we're not going to get along. Yeah, my enemy's starting to look like my friend, and my friend is starting to look like my enemy, and my lover is starting to look like the person who is my most worst enemy, my nemesis, my greatest nemesis. And it's like, what do I do from here? Now, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm using it as an example because I don't know how JD's wife is feeling. Um, and I don't know if JD is really serious about these things or he's just saying that because he's being directed to say it. A lot of times that's a lot of times let's just say it. Let's talk about it. You say things that you're coached to say. You don't necessarily agree with it, but you were coached to say it because we were conditioned in the modern school platforms to be guided as to what we say, despite understanding it really goes against our formal logic. I wrote about it in my book, and it's available on Amazon. Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, and Your Success. Go pick it up. Go pick it up. It'll help you out a little bit. It's easy to read. It's a very small book. I'm the psychologist that wrote it. It's going to make you think and help you with critical thinking skills. I'm just saying. Not sure about that. Politics is the cure. Yeah, and it's like there is no pandemic, that panacea. It's more of a pandemic, and it's like generational. It's like a generational curse even. And the only way to get out of it, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's really controversial, but we need to acknowledge that man-made orthodoxy is not working. And we need to go back to the fundamentals. Like, for example, when Jesus was like, I know a lot of people don't go that whole Jesus route, but Jesus was like, when people asked him, when all the parishioners and people in the churches got together and tried to convince Jesus that, oh, you should name your faith Christianity after yourself. And Jesus replied, yeah, it's not what this is about. It's about an individual walk or experience with the Father. And I'm only here to be the right man, the righteous man that the Father wanted man to be within Adam, but did not realize that. So now to realize it, here we are. And no, it's not to label it after me, because that takes all the glory away from your personal experience with God. All these labels, what they do is they manipulate, they they control, and they it's a force. It's like a force, like we are innately defying gravity as a at a certain age. But when we were born, yeah, it was hard for that newborn to hold his head up, it was wobbling all over the place. And it was difficult, after a while to maybe fall asleep because the eyelids were defying a force of gravity. But after a certain time of practice and growing and maturing, it was, for a lot of people, voluntary, where they will continue to progressively deny the force and advance in their ability to defy those forces. And it's like, you would imagine that that was the whole concept behind, because God does these things that trigger us, no matter how stupid we are, or how slow we are, or ignorant we may be. He does these things to make it like, oh, you can't miss it. Like, I took your rib out and created a woman, so you will understand that's your side, that's your help me. And then when the sperm from the men leave their body to go through the woman, is defying forces. The entire time is defying a force, not just gravity, but a pull that's denying the seed. And that's how we all start, as the seed. And it's like a force that we constantly define, and we're defying it all the time. And like, even when the sperm goes into the egg, where it's trying to penetrate the egg, we're defying a force. And we just keep defying that force throughout our existence, but we become null mentally to, or dim to, that practice, as we continue to allow titles and appealing to the human hierarchy of human needs, Maslow's human hierarchy of human needs. And we start to allow that to say, okay, this is justification for me going along with what you want, and defying the force that is called formal logic, or my personal free will. Until a point in time where we say, hey, it's a whole community of people that say, this is my free will, don't tread on me. I'm just saying, I'm just calling it like it is. Hey, Natasha, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your perspective and your comments. This is an interactive, so please feel free to comment, people. From concept, we did not find. Yeah. And a lot of people, if we would just go back to our fundamentals in that way, in that perspective, then we could start to see it everywhere. For example, in my last episode, I said, once you see God, you see him everywhere, in everything. It's like you don't really have to look too hard. And once we start to understand that it's not about a particular label or man-made orthodoxy, it's not about degrees or levels of degrees that were awarded to people for exhibiting a certain level of intelligence. And it's not about the school you went to, because I have been blessed to do some amazing things. And the school that I went to, it wasn't Oxford, though if it were, Oxford would be so happy to get that credit. Whereas it was, a lower level tier school who seems to perpetuate biases that we are in majority collectively saying we're not going back to that. And that's a concept that we have realized, regardless of whether people are implementing it on a broad spectrum in the laws that we reinforce or not. It's just something we're not going back, and that's just the end of that. And anybody that tries to push you back, it's like you're going to defy that force innately, because it's already innate in you. So no matter what happens, That is the answer. We're not going back from conception. We define. Oh, I did that. Hello. I know, right, sis? It's not about any of that. It's not about your labels. It's not about your method of manipulation. It's not about how you want to control somebody. It's not about your want. It's not about how much you want to pay somebody in order to motivate them to flip flop like Trump did before his show You're Fired. He was like, oh, I could go and I could run for presidency as a Democrat, but I'd run as a Republican even though I'm a Democrat. And then JD was like, oh, he's Hitler. And now he's like, oh, that's my best buddy. Hey, I'm not saying that, it's not entertaining. And I'm not saying that we don't understand that people will say whatever to get whatever they want and that we're oblivious to that idea. But yeah, this is happening. And it's like, um, if you identify it and you come out and vocalize it, then you may feel like your Maslow's human hierarchy of human needs are not being met. But when you look around and you see that those people who were once here before and now they're fallen and they're gone, and you have nothing else to grab hold to fill those empty spaces, you're going to start to understand you got to stand on your own now. You gotta do it for yourself, and you're gonna put down not just one foot, but you're gonna stomp down both feet. Not a jump, but it's like a particular stomp with both feet, and you're gonna declare and decree you're not going back. The end. We're done with that. All of that madness has got us right here, and no matter what we do from here, no matter who we say we're giving the credit to or following, we're not going back. That's just the end of that. And it's like, how do you know that that's the call and response? Well, because you're not safe anywhere and no one really cares because it's like they don't have anything else left to lose. Yep, it's and it's like you want to make it seem like it's about a political party, a political stance. No, it is about the era. Is the era we are in that says this response to that signal you sent out is the this is something we have reached. Yeah, and these young people they have no filter, and it's like you have them in a place, people with no filter, you have them in a mental headspace, in a mental space in such an era as this, and you thinking you about to survive this unscathed, you thinking that it's gonna go in a way that you're trying to manipulate when they said, no, we're gonna do me. What they say, I'm gonna do me. And you can't control that. You can't control that. And these young people are like, no, I'm about to start adulting. We have to teach them to stand on their own 2 feet and recognize what the truth. Yeah. And it's like the era is teaching them that because a lot of the people that they're following keep flip-flopping. And it's messing with them mentally to the point where they're like, I don't know who to believe. I don't know who to trust. I'm going to trust myself. And in the spiritual world, we call it familiar spirits. These familiar spirits are generational. And in the business world, we call it something like mimetic isomorphism or absorptive capacity, where we're copying the things that we feel or believe or have evidence that it might be a positive correlation to follow that pattern because it'll be successful. It's not working out. It's not working out. We have come to a place where it is obvious that that's just not going to work out. We are not advancing. We're seeing, people doing whatever they want to do, and they're exploring the ocean because people are like, well, I'm tired of these games. I'm going to go ahead and advance on my own. I'm going to explore the ocean. And I'm gonna make it fun. I'm gonna use a whole game controller, and we're gonna go down here in the makeshift submarine that I made on my own, because we're not reinforcing any laws, so you can't buy me. So I'm gonna do this, and we're losing young people. We're using good. We're losing good minds that could have been used for something better, something greater. We're doing things where it's like we're not valuing what we have in one another, despite the fact that natural disasters, pandemics, famine, it's causing an unpredictable loss, which we weren't expecting and we certainly weren't ready for. And it's like, what are we doing about it? Well, that call and response, that signal that's being sent out is saying we've hit that brick wall, is saying, hey, this is what we're going to do about it. Let's talk about it. But I'm going to do it regardless of how you feel about it. And if it causes a civil war, well, at least you had that heads up that I wasn't given when I was sitting there believing that you were someone you weren't. So when you showed your true colors, it was a shock and devastating to me, to the point where it disenfranchised how I feel about you or your feelings. So now I'm gonna do me since you're doing you. That never works out. It never works out. Okay, so I got this joke. I got this joke. I made it up on my own. I'm not a stand-up comedian, and you're not even paying for this anyway. So bear with me. Okay, so I got this joke. It says, the devil goes to church. He sees God there. The devil goes to the club. He sees God there too. The devil goes to the bar. He look over. He see God there. The devil goes to the hospital. Yep. Again, what do you know? He sees God there. Then the devil goes and he visits a single individual who's frustrated and just uh, perplexed and puzzled and just down and out. And he what is this? I can't even read my own writing. The devil says he sees God there and he says, "What? Yeah, you here too? What are you doing here?" And God responds, "I'm everywhere." And the devil says, "I know, right? What's that about?" You see, the devil sees God because he knows and he's always seen him. So everywhere he goes, he's going to see him. It's only us who have the big head and we're distracted by everything, that we can't see God everywhere in everything that we're doing. Yep. Even at the Diddy parties, God was there. God was there. He was like, y'all gonna regret this. Hey, ooh, yep, look at that. You know you're not gonna want to own up to that. Now you know, but we're gonna see how you act and if it's gonna change, if it's gonna improve you later. So yeah, it's like we thinking God ain't seeing stuff, and the devil meanwhile he like, yep, God seeing it, God seeing it. I know because he giving me permission to, help y'all do this little thing where you thinking you doing you, but he using you too. God is using your experience. God is using every little thing that you do because he's everywhere. He's omnipotent. Watch my previous show where I show you, you got to look for God everywhere. He's omnipresent and you're not necessarily hiding from him. And even in the Bible and other religious writings, we see that God is a permissive God where he allows you to do these things that you do and he turns it for your good because you love him, and you come to learn that you love him when you come to understand that God sees your flaws, but they're not flaws at all. They're things that's individual to you that you can't hide, you can't cover, you can't run from. Only thing you could do is accept it, own it, and grow from it, learn, and help somebody else who may have a little bit of that or a whole lot of that or more than what you had. You can be more helpful if you own what you did instead of hiding your hand and then being ashamed when it's brought to light. And we're seeing a lot of that with this Diddy situation. Like, I don't know how much baby oil you need, but I'm really interested in understanding what his idea was. I'm just saying, I'm an adult. I'm grown. I can say I can own it. I'm a woman about mine. I want to know, why did you have so many bottles, bro? Come on, you don't need that much. But hey, to each his own. And when you know stuff, it levels you up, and then you get to try some stuff. You get to try some stuff. I'm just saying. It may not be, something that you flamboyant about sharing, but yeah, let's just face it. It's a lot of things that people are doing. For example, if it wasn't in the churches or the places of faith, then we wouldn't have such controversy in the followerships in those places. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I remember we were active duty and my husband was deployed, but I was trying to keep my sons in church because that's how I grew up. And I wasn't like forcing it on them or anything, but that social activity, especially with the homeschool kids who are trying to figure out, find their place. Just like the Amish, they at a certain age, they allow them to experiment. But me and my experience, it's good to allow children to do that throughout their life. So when they're older, they won't part from a more logic and sound mind. But anyway, we were going to church and I just stepped into the church. I was late because I got to do my hair and two little boys' hair, and I got to get them dressed. And yeah, I would bathe them every day, and we would all clean up, before we leave the house. You're not going to be leaving funky. Some people, though, I don't know. It's starting to come out on social media that everybody ain't showering daily. I ain't got no judgment against it or for it. I'm just saying that's not my thing. So I'm a little late. So the church is already packed. And the preacher, the pulpit is like waist high. Like I'm like 5'7" and maybe a little extra. And the pulpit comes up a little bit like mid belly on me. And he was up there preaching, heavily preaching, okay? He deep into it, got the going. And his wife is like the first lady, she like sitting right there next to his chair while he's standing up preaching. He saw me come through the door of a full church, okay? He jumped down from the pulpit mid whatever, preaching or whatever, and then started to make a beeline towards me. The aisles, thank God, started to get crowded with all the people who wanted the preacher who was calling himself a prophet to lay hands on them and prophesy on them. And I just started praying and just moving, trying to move away out of his reach. And then all of his security pulled him back to the pulpit. It's in the churches where you're seeing people say, "Oh, here comes some fresh meat. Here comes some fresh." She don't know. She clearly don't know because she knew she can't know. She can't know what we doing up in here. Not before she be victimized too. And then you have these churches where you have multiple victims of where the preacher, it's in the news, go look it up, where the preacher was fornicating with almost everybody in the church, and now everybody got AIDS. Then you have these preachers where you see that, now they got kids out of wedlock, and who is it? It's some underage young lady. And it's like, we think that these things are new when it starts to be reported, but it's not new. It's just a matter of the fact that we are saying no more. We're saying, yeah, we're going to expose these things so we can improve on these things, not so we can perpetuate it and excuse it and say, oh, well, he's a man. For example, I don't know how many people know this, but it was like a viral video of a sitting pastor who was married, and his mistress was literally recording. She had the camera like on her belly, I guess, because you could see her navel and his head and her crouch and her legs hiked up. And it's like his skills was like, wow, are you doing that at home too? If you were, maybe you wouldn't have to cheat. But I'm just saying. And it's like we were surprised as a nation and a faith-based community that this was happening. And then his response to it, oh, I'm a man. I'm a man too, even though I'm a leader of a church. It's not to ask if you're a man. The question was, are you fit? Are you suitable to be leading or in a leadership role when you are dishonorable? And that is the signal that's being communicated across the board. We have seen how people have been put in positions of power or leadership and they are underqualified. And we were like, oh, well, that's just a broken system. That's just the way it is. And it's like people are like, nah, nah, nah. We can't do it. We can't do it because not just because it's financially negatively impacting everybody, not just because a lot of people can't afford the rent and the mortgage. What that dude, that political guy say, I forget his name. He was like, the rent is too darn high, or bills are too high, something like that. We've already heard it. We've heard it. We've done it. We're tired of it. We've heard the excuses of how people in faith-based places are sitting on high clergy positions, and then they fall from grace, and they say, "Well, I'm a human." We've heard all of that. We've heard how political leaders have fallen from grace by doing some dishonorable things, and it's really shocking to me how we've gotten to the point now where we excuse it to the point where somebody who has a criminal record can run for the highest leadership role in the country, and everybody's like looking the other way and letting it happen, and even considering that if we follow along that same path, that we just as well go all in and be a dictatorship and let a bunch of waywardness get worse. And it's like, what do you think that's going to lead to? Do you think a bunch of adults who have been to do want to have a positive peace of mind, do you think that they're going to allow you to push them further? That's the problem right there. They haven't, and they're not. It won't happen. It can't happen. It didn't work out when it was slavery. And that's why slavery ended. It didn't work out when it was oppression of women. And then when you try to go back and revisit that, it was a loud pushback and a strong pushback that said, yeah, a lot of men aren't in, enough men are not in on that concept, that idea, that kind of path forward, because it's not a path forward. And now you think that if a lot of people who we're coming to find are not as honorable and have the kind of integrity that we were hoping for, the kind that we expected because we like them and we think they're kind of cool, and we think that, oh yeah, I was really thoroughly entertained. We think that that's enough, that you could push us to lose our mind. We've lost our houses. We've lost our cars. We've lost loved ones. We lose an ability to eat. We're losing the ability to drink clean water. We're losing the ability to breathe clean air. We're not going to lose the ability to at least have our right mind. For example, you see a lot of people who are in incarcerated, they say things like, oh, you can lock up my body, but one thing you can't get is my mind. Well, there was a clap back to that. They were like, oh, well, let's try it. Let's fool around and find out. That's what we are. We have food around, we have found out, and the answer is we're not going back. We don't care if the majority is clinically insane and say, yep, let's go for it. Let's just lose our ever loving mind. We don't care if that's the way you feel. Because when you're fighting for your life like that, you don't have no other choice but to win. So when you fight, you win. So it doesn't matter if you're whatever way you justifying it. If you're saying whatever you want to say to justify it, the answer is we're not going back no matter what you say. we're not going to side with that. No matter what you do, you can't pay me enough. You can't incentivize me enough. You can't motivate me enough. I'm not going to lose my mind. I might accept payments or whatever compensation for saying whatever you want me to say when you want me to say it. As long as I know I have my right mind. I may be incarcerated for life. It's people who have been put on death row, but the one thing you could not make them do was lose their mind and tell you they were guilty when they knew they were innocent. They will declare to the last breath their innocence, because you won't make them lose their mind to make them believe or say they were guilty when they were innocent. So it's not anything new. There's nothing new under the sun. It's not new, even if it's news to you, because you don't study to show yourself approved, to understand the topics that you're speaking of, or the error that you're currently living through or trying to live through. It doesn't matter if people are using social media for entertainment purposes and they're saying whatever just for likes and giggles, tickles and giggles, whatever. They're not losing their mind. And they'll be real quick to grab it, especially when they hear that voice say, call out God. Call out God right now, as bullets are whizzing by. And they're in the path of being struck and falling, in jeopardy of falling fatally and not getting back up. God is even with the atheist, and the devil look like, God, you here too? The atheist says, whoo, thank you, Jesus. I needed God right now. You didn't see that bullet? Did you see? I was in school. I was in church. I was in a place of safety. And I was in jeopardy. And no matter what label I used, I still called God the creator of all things, because that's the only one that could have helped me anyway. And he does. Then he waits for you to acknowledge and accept. Sometimes people lose time to do that. But since so many loved ones have fallen, a lot of people are taking the time to say, look, I'm going to use this last little time I have, and I'm going to either be neutral in the public, but in private, I'm going to have a more strong life towards trying to get right with God. And some people, they're like, I don't care who knows. I'm going to try to develop a stronger relationship with God, because y'all not going to make me lose my mind. I'm not going that way. Y'all, I go out any other way, but what you won't do is take my mind. That's what we are. And that's why we have Adroit Living. This episode is let's talk about it, because let's talk about it. Hi, Mama Michelle. Thank you for joining us. Mama Michelle live out loud. She said, look, I'm gonna go to prayer right now. I got to go. And a lot of people, and not just in times of trouble, but that's just a regular occurrence for her, because it's like when you see God, you can't stop seeing him. The devil wish he could, but it's not working out like that. Well, I'm just saying, I know, right, Mama Michelle? That's it. But we can't just do it behind closed doors or in the times of trouble, because right now, losing our mind is at stake. And no matter what you say, no matter what you do, studies support the understanding. We're not going to do that. We are not going to do that. You can use religious books as a historical testament. You can use whatever you want to help you to understand. That's not going to happen. And yes, please like, share, and subscribe this episode. Yes, National Sons Day. I am blessed that I only have sons, because my God, if I had to protect a daughter in this era, I would never be able to rest. I'm struggling to rest, protecting my sons, and we see what's happening with that, with African American men in this era. And it is contributing to us losing our right mind. But we've been pushed to an edge and to a point where we're saying, nah, we're done. We're done here. We're not doing it. We're not going back. And no matter what you say, we're going to laugh. We're going to laugh because, yeah, no matter what you do, what you say, we're not going back. It's over. All of that, no. We thought you would, get it together, but you didn't. You never did. So we got to say, yeah, all those people with wisdom, they're going to start speaking up and speaking out. And it's like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Yeah, I know, right, Mama Michelle? But that's been my show for today. I only get an hour. Please remember to go on Amazon, grab my book, Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, and Your Success. It's written differently because I'm a psychologist, and I was doing a little mind thing with it so it can help improve critical thinking and recondition us to strengthen our formal logic, as opposed to continuing in the path of contrived thinking for the purposes that led us right here to say we're not going back. Okay, that's my time for today. Remember, mental health is physical wealth.
Mental health is